Okay, so in this video, I'm going to cover the process that we follow to help people get in great shape and ultimately stay in great shape, so sustain the results. So when somebody joins our program, we essentially have two main goals for them. That is going to be get to a healthy body composition, and this is going to be 10 to 15% for men and 18 to 22-ish% for women. That's goal one. That is where you will look, feel, and perform your best. Goal two is we want to make sure that we have a system in place where you maintain the results as easily as possible. This usually means eating, training, moving without tracking, and essentially how you live your life. So the buzzword lifestyle is how you maintain your results. So in order to get there, first, we just need to understand what that looks like. So 15-ish% for men is going to be around these two pictures you see here, and then 18 to 22% is going to be, a blend of these three. So right around 20 is the middle there, obviously. So that's goal one, is the body composition. Again, this is where you will look, feel, and perform your best, and ultimately where you should be long term. So that's goal one. And then understanding how we can get there is we need to make sure we have an understanding of fat loss itself. And the golden rule of fat loss is that we need to be in a calorie deficit. So the amount of calories we consume per day, our intake, needs to be less than the amount of calories we burn per day, our output. And as long as we do that, we will have a negative energy balance and we will lose weight. So our goal is to essentially create a system where you can be in a calorie deficit in a sustainable manner, where you can see consistent results in your body composition. And we'll do that through a combination of improvement in your nutrition, your training, your activity levels, and the last one I would add here is your sleep. I say these four areas done well, doing the simple things of each of them, will get you 95% of the way there. And this is the general path people take. So if you just joined this program, the goal right now is to get to a healthy body fat percentage that I mentioned above. Once we do that, you essentially get to have three options to choose from, or three different doors to go down. What you can do is build muscle, maintain, or pursue a different goal. And essentially, if you focus on gaining muscle, you will add muscle, but also fat mass. And when we're done gaining muscle, we will make sure you get back to a healthy body fat percentage. And then you get to ask yourself these questions again. Say you want to maintain, we would transition to what I call cruise control living. And this is where you're doing what I said above, where eating, moving, training without tracking, and you're maintaining your results intuitively. The third option is you can transition to another goal that isn't related to your body composition. So this could be increasing your bench press, improving your mile time, training for a hike or something like that you want to do. That would require a different programming approach in regards to your fitness routine. But this is the general process we will take to get you there. So in order to go from, a higher body fat percentage to a healthy body fat percentage, phase one is all about doing these two things. So this is what we aim for, is we want to make sure the simple things of each of those categories I mentioned, nutrition, training, activity levels, and sleep, are easy and convenient for your lifestyle. And if we do that, two should happen by itself. We should get you into a position where you're losing roughly 1% of your body weight per week. And that's plus or minus a little bit. But that is directionally correct and what we aim for on a weekly basis. If we do that, that is how you see really consistent results that are high quality. And the reason we want to make sure it's easy initially is because most people come to us and they've struggled with consistency issues. And that's often because they try to make things too hard before they're doing the simple things well. So our process here is we want to make sure it's easy. And if it's easy, we can be consistent. And if we're consistent, we can make progress. And then you get stuck in this positive feedback cycle where you feel better because you're losing weight, because you're eating better, because you're moving more, because you're training. And as a result, you want to keep doing those things. And once you're stuck in that cycle, what we do with you is try to find the right balance between what is sustainable for your lifestyle and what is optimal in terms of getting you the best results possible. So what I typically see is, what I mentioned before, is that people will come to us and they have a history of trying to make things as optimal as possible, and picture this being a scale, and not sustainable. So they tip it way too far in this direction, where yes, they have a really good plan, but it's not sustainable and it's really hard to make consistent progress. So they'll be good for a week, but then they'll be terrible for 4, or they'll be good for a month and then be terrible for 11. And something, if you're already in this program, you hear me say a lot is, I'll just type it up here. It's, this is one of my favorite quotes, is it's better to be consistently good rather than occasionally great. So the person who's consistent for 365 days, even if their program is slightly less optimal, will see better results than the person who is perfect for a month but terrible for 11. So that is the general approach we take there, is we want to find the balance between sustainable and optimal to make sure you have a system in place that works for your lifestyle. So, like I mentioned before, these are the 4 key areas we focus on initially. We'll start with, this is the hierarchy. So nutrition 1, training 2, activity levels 3, sleep 4. These things will drastically improve the quality of results you see with your health. And the goal here is, like I said, a system that makes it easy for you to follow. But I kind of define that as, regardless of what situation you're in, you know exactly what you need to do in order to get the results you're looking for. So, if we define the simple things here of each of these categories, this is what I would classify as kind of phase 1. This is hitting your calorie and protein goals will cover nutrition. 3 to 4 lifting sessions per week will cover your training. Activity, we want to aim for 8 to 10,000 steps per day, or the equivalent. This could be some elliptical work, bicycle work, hiking, things like that. And it doesn't need to be strictly steps, but we want to make sure we get the activity level equivalent of 8 to 10,000 steps per day. And then sleep, ideally 7 to 8 hours per night. We can see progress with less, but this is what everybody says is the best performance enhancing drug out there, is 7 to 8 hours per night of sleep. You will feel better, you will make better decisions, you'll have less cortisol, i.e. stress. Progress will be better as a result. So if we can do this, that is great. And like I said above, doing these things well, if you check off these boxes every single day, you will get 95% of the way there. So our goal now is to essentially help you create a system where we can reverse engineer these goals here into your daily routine. And that essentially just means having a plan. So regardless of what situation you're in, you know exactly what you need to do. Now, what I'll try to do to the best of my ability is break down each of these areas and how we can approach it. So these are just going to be like high-level bullet points, but at the end, I will walk you through essentially a process of applying each of these into your routine. And I'll give my own routine as an example. So for nutrition, you could take the guesswork out of the process, which is essentially what we want to do, if you had these 3 things in place. If you are at home, you could create 5 to 10 meals that help you hit your daily calorie and protein goal and take the guesswork out of the process. You rotate through them, there's enough meals to keep it fresh, and you see progress. The other option is you could track your intake. So track your calories, and as long as you hit your calorie and protein goal, you'll be golden. Or it could be as simple as following a protocol. So this works really well for people who travel a lot for business, or maybe on the weekends, your day looks a lot different. Like you could be at sporting events, or you're just hanging out with family and you go out for dinner. Like how should your eating look like in that? And what we'll do is develop a protocol for that. And there will be a separate video for each of these topics, so I'm just going to keep it a little high level here. But essentially, we want to help you create a system for at least the meals and the protocol to follow when you can't follow the meals. For training, what we aim for initially in phase 1 is we just want to put together the best routine for the time and equipment you have available. So it doesn't matter if it's a full gym, dumbbells and a bench, squat rack at home, body weight only. We want to just put together the best routine for the time and equipment you have available. So we'll do that. We'll start training and focus on improving your form, because that is the most important part of training. And then once form is solid, we will start increasing the training quality. So that means applying progressive overload, which is simply increasing the amount of weight or reps done with time. Again, I will have a separate video covering this, but that is the high-level overview of high-quality training. Activity levels. What we aim for initially is 8 to 10,000 steps per day, or the activity level equivalent. So it could be the steps and you use a walking pad to make it easier for you while you're working. Or you start your day with a 30-minute walk, end your day with a 30-minute walk, and you sprinkle in just daily activity throughout that, and that will get you close. And then lastly, sleep is we just want to make sure you get 7 to 8 hours a night of high quality sleep. And here are just some general tips that you can pause and read. But what we try to do is create a system where all of these things are fairly straightforward and convenient for you to follow. Again, finding the right balance between what is sustainable and what is optimal. And this is essentially phase 1. And the way we like to measure progress is through your body weight. So we take the weekly average, compare it to the week before, and that's why we aim for roughly 1%, or that's how we get that 1% number. We'll take progress photos and body measurements every 2 weeks, usually on a Sunday, to measure improvements in your body composition, because as you improve the quality of what you do in those areas above, odds are you're going to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, or that is at least very common. We will follow this process with minor improvements, perhaps like transitioning to phase 2, until we get to that 10 to 15% body fat range. It will include cycles, most likely, depending on where your starting position is, of being in a deficit and at maintenance calories to reset, reduce stress placed on the body, and give yourself essentially a diet break. And we'll repeat that process until we get there. But that big picture is the path we're going to take to get you to 10 to 15% body fat, or I should have, 18 to 22% as well for the woman. So now what I'll try to do is essentially reverse engineer these goals into our daily routine. So if I were just getting started, this is all I'm focusing on doing. So for my daily routine, what we might do is, let's say, if I can wake up, I'm not going to put times here, but let's do wake up and do a 20 to 30 minute walk. I know that roughly, type it over here, 1 minute of walking equals 100 steps, give or take. So I need roughly 80 to 100 minutes of walking per day to hit that 8 to 10,000 step goal. So I'll get started early on that. I usually do more than this. Like I'll try to get as many steps in as possible before 8 a.m., like 4 to 5,000. But this is a good beginning point. Wake up, 20 to 30 minute walk. Oops, I'm just going to include it here. Then we'll do like a high protein breakfast. So if my goal is 170 grams per day of protein, we'll say, just for the sake of math or making it nice, we'll say 1,700 calories, 170 grams of protein is my goal for the day. Let's say I eat 3 times plus 1 snack. 170 divided by 3 is going to be, 50, or not 50, but 170 divided by 3 is going to be like 56 or 55-ish. But if I add a snack in there, I know that roughly I can allocate like 30 grams of protein to that. So let's say from 3 meals, I want to get 140 grams of protein plus a 30 gram of protein snack. So I'll have 40 grams of protein for breakfast. I'll put in lunch here at least another 40 to 60 grams. And then dinner, another 40 to 60 grams. So let's say you do that. And then in my case, like I can work out after I eat lunch. So I'll get my workout in then. And then after dinner, I'll get another walk in here. And then throughout the day, I'm usually working on my walking pad. So like I can easily do 2 to 3 hours of walking on my walking pad. Boom. So more or less, and then let's add a snack here. Snack 30 grams of protein. Like I essentially just hit these goals where sleep, wake up. So let's say I sleep at 9:30, wake up at 5:30 or 6 a.m. and that will get me 7 to 8 hours sleep per night. Like obviously this is really simple, but this is what we need to do is like figure out how we can do each of these things on a daily basis that works for your lifestyle and your schedule. So what works for me might not work great for you. What I recommend doing is everything's easier with a plan and everything's easier the earlier you get started. So what works really well for most people is you wake up, work out, start your day with something hard. You'll make better decisions throughout the rest of the day because of that. And you get the hardest thing out of the way. And then you can get your steps in however you want. We'll put together 5 to 10 meals that help you hit your protein goals and calorie goals. And then as long as we get our steps in and get as much sleep as possible, like we should be able to get into a position of seeing really high quality results. So I know this example wasn't great, but this is more or less what we need to do in order to build a routine that helps you consistently lose about 1% of your body weight per week. So if you have any questions, let me know. I apologize for the longer video, but just wanted to give you a general process / overview of what we're looking for and what we're aiming to do, especially if you're just getting started in this program.